Peace, family. I hope you guys are happy and healthy and doing well. Today we are saving my butternut squash. You guys, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I left my butternut squash maybe too long. I think it was a 2-year-old butternut squash. So I go in my little pantry and I'm like, okay, I need to start canning. I just finished my show and I got a little bit of rest and I'm like, now I gotta can, right? So I go in there and there's like 5 of them in there and one of them is super moldy. I'll put my TikTok at the end of this video to show you guys what it looked like. But that just solidified the fact that butternut squash was next on my list of things to can. I have been getting a bunch of requests of people asking me to show them canning, and so I'm going to do my best to show you guys everything and what I learned and what really made me comfortable with canning in a pressure canner. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you have an approved recipe, especially if you're just learning. I didn't get to learn like from my granny or anything like that, and so me just learning, you know, I learned the functions of the canner and stuff, and I just want to kind of learn what's safe to can, what has to be pressure canned and stuff like that. And then I'm sure as I go on, I'll learn more and feel more comfortable with a little bit of variation. But I would start with a recipe, and you don't have to purchase a book. Even though I do have a couple books for this video, I decided to go ahead and print out a free recipe. So this is from the Ball Canning website. So you can go on there and get a bunch of free recipes and print them out. So I'm going to kind of walk you through what we're going to do, and then I'll show you. It says prepare your pressure canner, which I have done. It is kind of like on a slow heat with about 1 quart of water in it right now. And so I am going to have my jars. They're already washed, but I'm gonna rinse them in really hot water and sit them in here so that they can stay warm while they wait on our butternut squash. So prepare your pressure canner, have washed lids and jars, wash pumpkin or squash and cut them, remove the seeds. We already did that. I'll show you guys. My husband did help me out because I actually hate cutting butternut squash. They're winter squash, and so the outside is hard. I love growing them because they last so long, but I don't really like cutting them up. So we already have that, and then we're gonna hot pack them. So we're gonna kind of start them to boil a little bit. So we're gonna want hot canner, hot jars, and hot filling to go in. If we were cold packing, everything would need to be cold. It would be cold canner, cold jars, cold food going inside, and then we would bring it up. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and rinse my jars in really, really hot water, and then I'm gonna sit them in the canner and we'll go from there. Oh, I forgot to tell them. I will though. That I had to make sure my jars didn't have any cracks. Okay, family, so here's hubby helping me out, doing the part I hate. He is peeling and cubing up our butternut squash for me. And as you can see, these butternut squash are about 1 year old and they still look super fresh. So this is one of the reasons I love growing these. They have been free for the past 2 years for us, and they just keep on giving. Here it is all laid out. Almost ready for the next step, and I am saving seeds so that we can plant them again. Make sure that you have clean lids and rings. Wash them off in hot water, and then have them ready for when you get your jars filled up. And then I have all my other tools laid out, and these, almost all of these came in a kit together, I think from Amazon. It's really helpful. So I'm going to get all of my butternut squash in the pans and covered with water. I'll bring it to a boil over medium heat. Yes, it would be nice to have a bigger pot, but I'm making it work. Oops, I lost one. Just stick with me, guys. It's gonna be great. Okay, guys, so I forgot to tell you about your canning jars. One thing that you want to make sure before you start canning is that you really look at your canning jars and make sure that there are no cracks anywhere, because if you pressure can this jar and it has a crack, the whole thing is going to bust open. I have had a jar bust on me. It didn't ruin the other jars, but it sucked. You know, you do a lot of preparation and then your food busts all out of the jar. And so just make sure that you don't have any cracks. And also I think the quickness or the quickness that you bring the pressure up can also crack your jars. So that's some stuff to think about. So right now I have my canner getting hot. It has about 2 quarts of water in it with a little bit of vinegar, which helps for it not to get cloudy. By the time I start, it is going to be 3 quarts in here. And I'm just having it hot enough to keep the jars hot so that when I put hot contents in them, they're not shocked by the hot content. So I don't really want the water to be boiling. I just kind of want them to be hot. I also have my towel laid out here, so I'm not going to be able to put these hot jars right on my counter. I'm going to use this towel. I'm going to stick them here and I'm going to fill them with the hot contents. You can see I have all of my lids. They're washed in hot soapy water and laid out. And I have all my tools laid out as well. So I just covered my butternut squash with water and I'm bringing it up to a boil on medium heat. I'm going to have it boil for about 2 minutes and then I'm going to remove them and drain it or strain it. Yeah. And then we're going to put the hot butternut squash into our jars and I'm going to pour over hot boiling water on top, and we'll leave the correct headspace and everything. So let me get these to a boil and then I'll come back and show you guys what we got going on. Okay peeps, so I got my hot squash ready and I'm about to start filling jars. There are 7 of them in here. I'm not sure that it's gonna fill 7, but I always try to have as many prepared as possible, because what I don't want to do is have to go back and try to warm up, like rush warm up a jar and rush it and then it busts in here. So I'm gonna go probably like 2 by 2. And fill my jars. So this is a pretty simple recipe and that's why I chose to do it this way. And I'm doing it 2 by 2 because I don't want my jars to cool all the way down. Everything needs to be hot. So I'm going to put a teaspoon of salt. This is pink Himalayan salt in each jar. I am going to take my hot butternut squash and start to scoop them in here, leaving 1-inch headspace. This is a it's a strainer, but I thought it would be a good idea to try and use it to scoop these. So we shall see. And I normally use my butternut squash for that's a hot jar, so I'm gonna grab it like that. I don't know how hot it is, but I wanna like, there we go. I want it to be like 1-inch headspace at least. So I'm gonna keep filling these two, and then I'll come back and add the liquid in a second. Okay guys, so I have my butternut squash in there with about an inch headspace, and I am gonna ladle hot water over it to 1 inch headspace. Also, this is distilled water. You wouldn't want a can with like sink water unless it's all you got, I guess. I think use the best that you have, but always be preserving. You know, that's the name of the game. And then when you have better materials, then you can use better materials. So that's about an inch. I am gonna have to go back and make sure that I debubble this. So I'm gonna stick my debubbler in there and just make sure that I work out all the bubbles, and then check the headspace again to make sure that it is the correct headspace. And the headspace is important because it helps with siphoning. If you don't have enough headspace, you may have stuff sneaking out of your jars. If you have too much headspace, it's not as close to the tested recipe as it should be. And so that's why you want to check the headspace. So this is like an estimate right now. I like this little tool because it'll show me 1 inch will be right at the bottom of that little piece. But since I haven't debubbled yet, that might change. It might adjust. And this is actually my first time doing butternut squash, so I'm doing it with you guys. I hope I'm not over cooking them, but pressure canning is cooking it a lot, and I'm not tripping because I normally make enchiladas with these, which is like the filling to my enchiladas. So if they're soft, that's just going to be perfect for our filling anyway. So I want to make sure that my butternut squash is covered in a liquid. And now I'm going to double check my headspace. And I like it. I'll do the same with the other. And you'll see, you'll think there's no bubbles in there, but as you move your stuff around, down and about, you'll see that there are bubbles hidden in and around. So this is a step that you don't want to skip. And then again, I'm gonna just make sure. No, it's not gonna be perfect, but we're gonna just do our best. And let's see, our headspace looks beautiful. So what I'm gonna do now is I have some napkins here, and I've got my vinegar over here waiting, just because I have limited counter space. But I am going to take this napkin and vinegar, and I'm going to wipe the rims of my jars just to make sure that I haven't spilled anything that's going to keep it from sealing. Look at that. So that's a step that you don't want to miss. Every single thing that I'm doing is just to make sure that all this hard work pays off and that my jars actually seal. So I've got hot filled jars. I like what they're looking like so far. What I'm going to do is close these up, and I'm going to close it fingertip tight. So what that means to me is I'm going to turn it until the jar starts to want to turn. That's what I do. You're not going to like hold it and grind it on there, because actually air is supposed to be kind of escaping during the canning process. So that's how I'm going to do those. I'm going to stick these back in, and I'm going to keep going back and forth. I'll come back and show you guys when everything is full and I have as much water as I need in there, and when we start building our pressure back up. Okay, family, so we were able to get 6 full quart jars, and I have a little bit left over. I'll probably just freeze it for the next time I make, or I'll figure out something to make with these, because this wasn't enough to fill a quart jar. So I have my 6 quart jars in here. They are starting to heat up. I do have 3 quarts of water in there now. That is how much I need in this size Presto pressure canner to pressure can. You need to check the type of pressure canner that you have and the size and how much water you need to put in there to successfully pressure can your stuff. So I've got 3 quarts of water in here and just a little bit of vinegar. The vinegar helps it not to be so cloudy. And I try to put everything in here where they're not really touching. Hopefully the movement in there won't have anybody knocking around. And this should fit 7 quarts comfortably. I have them in there, but I just didn't have enough butternut squash, and so I didn't want to have something that's not full. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my top on here and close it up. And it is gonna take some time to build up the pressure. I'm gonna build it up where I can see a steady flow of steam coming out of this hole here. And then I'm gonna set a timer for 5 minutes, and I want a steady stream to go for 5 minutes before I am going to cover it up with this. That is when the pressure will start building. Slowly and surely is the best way to build your pressure instead of just trying to crank it all the way up to high and make it go fast, because if you get it to go slowly, it's easier to keep it at the pressure that you need it. I am in Houston, Texas. We are below 1,000 above sea level, and so I need it to be at 10 pounds of pressure for 90 minutes because it's quart jars. I think it's 55 minutes if they were pint jars. Also, I wanted to note that I didn't like scooping it with that other, with the strainer. I decided to use this because the strainer was kind of bruising them, and I do want them to be pretty in the jars. Winter squash can be cooked for quite a while, so I'm not worried about the actual texture of it, but it was more for the look of it. So I'm gonna let this kind of heat up and start steaming, and I'll come back and show you guys how to get it up to the temperature.
Okay, family, so everything is nice and sealed. I have my canner on a relatively high heat to bring it up, and I'm gonna wait until this little disc pops up. That's how you know your pressure is starting to build, and we'll see a nice stream coming out of the vent hole. So there it goes, it popped, and as you can see, steam is coming out of the vent hole. I am gonna want to see or hear a steady stream coming out of there for at least 10 minutes before I cover it up. This is what is called venting. This really helps to make sure that the pressure builds correctly in your canner. That way it's going to build correctly and steadily, and hopefully not too much fluctuation. So there we go. I put it on after my 10-minute timer went off. I just want to show you guys what the heat looks like right now. So it's on a relatively high heat right now. Once my pressure starts to get kind of like between 5 and 10, I'm going to slowly like lower the heat a little by little. You just have to kind of keep watching it, and don't make big temperature adjustments. Just make slight ones. But I'm going to do that because I don't want the pressure to build up way too fast and be like, you know, all the way on 15 or something like that. So as you can see here, I am almost to 10 pounds of pressure. That is the recommended pounds of pressure for my altitude. Some recipes will tell you if you have a dial gauge, which is what I have, to go ahead and go to 11 pounds. The thing that you want to do is not go too far above your pressure, and you definitely don't want to go below. Anytime that you go below the recommended pressure, you have to stop your timer and you have to get it back over that pressure level and to start the timer again. So that's the most important thing. You can see right now I'm a little over, and I'm going to show you what my fire looks like. You can see I've turned it down some. So I'm just working on getting that perfect level of pressure, and here I think I like where I am. So we're gonna ride it out right here.
Okay, family, my timer just went off, so I'm gonna just cut the fire all the way off, and we're gonna let the pressure go fully down, all the way down. So I cut my fire off. By this time, it was pretty low anyway, but it's gonna take some time for this pressure to go back down. I'm gonna let the pressure go all the way down to 0, and then this should also fall down before I do anything. After this falls down and the pressure's all the way down, I'll take that off, give it 5 more minutes, and then I'm gonna go ahead and take the top off. This is the time when you're able to walk away from your canner, because it is gonna take time for that pressure to go down. But I've been sitting here for like 90 minutes, so I'm gonna go to the restroom and come back later, and I'll bring you guys back later with me when it's time to open the canner up. Okay, family, let's see what it looks like. We're gonna open it, and it's gonna be steamy, so you're gonna want to open it like away from you. Watch feet. And while they are still hot, all right. Yeah, they're looking good. You're just gonna carefully pull straight up. And you gotta sit it on a towel. Once you get them all over here, you're not going to touch them again for 12 to 24 hours. That is when you're going to check and make sure that that is fully sealed. And I am quite excited. You always hope it's going to be a good canning day. Sometimes a jar will bust. You know, but you just gotta keep going and keep trying, keep learning, and you get better and better and more confident at it. I always think it looks so good when it's bubbling up like that. And I think I forgot to mention that I got these jars on Facebook Marketplace for the low. And I am happy so far with how all of my jars are looking. They are all boiling nicely, so that looks like, oh, and that's the sound I like to hear. That means it is sealing, that little pop. So you may not hear all of the pops all at once. They may keep popping all right now. You may hear it throughout the night. Just don't touch it for 12 to 24 hours. I'll come back and show you guys what it looks like to test and see if they are nicely sealed. And I'm also gonna put below some places, some other websites where you can find safe canning recipes. So if you guys have any questions, please put them below. Please share this video if you know anyone who is feeling nervous about canning. It does get a little bit easier, but I think every time you're still kind of like on edge. Or well, so far I still am. But just keep growing and keep, you know, learning. And keep trying and pay attention and you'll be fine. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll come back and show you guys tomorrow what it's looking like. Peace. Peace, family. Grand Rising. So it hasn't been 12 hours yet, but I wanted to take a look with you guys. So I'm not going to touch them. I just noticed some things and I want to share them with you.
Okay, so you see, and y'all packed these with me, I did put my liquid up to 1-inch headspace. But I also showed you guys the temperatures, and I did go up in pressure higher than my recommended pressure, not on purpose. It's not dangerous. It just caused a little siphoning, and that is when liquid comes out. And that's one of the reasons that I was talking about doing your best to have a smooth, like, increase and decrease. We'll just increase in pressure. I went higher, and then I try my best to just like slightly adjust the heat to bring it back to where I wanted it to be. And I did get it to a good place, and I have a feeling that these are all sealed and they look great. So I am still super excited about this canning. I'm excited. So all we have to do is wait until a little bit later, and we'll check and see if they are sealed, and then I can just wipe them down, write my dates on them, and put them in my little pantry. So I hope this is helping someone. I was nervous to can in front of you guys, to be honest, because I still feel very new, but I understand the nervousness that you have when you're thinking about canning, and a video really helped me. I shared it on my what did I can? I canned a beef stew, and I shared it on there. And if I can find it again, I'll share it on here for you guys, because he showed how to kind of slowly adjust the temperature so things don't burst and you don't have too much siphoning. I still think these look beautiful. So anyway, I'll come back and show you guys later. Peace. Okay, family. So it's been probably like 16, 17 hours or so. And it is safe to touch it now. What you want to do is see, can you pick this up just by the top? Is it popping up right here? It shouldn't be popping up here. So that's the same for all of them. They look beautiful to me. What I'll do is just wipe them down, make sure they're nice and clean, label them, and then put them away. You can reuse the rings. Some people reuse the lids. I have done it successfully before, but I'm not telling you to do it. I think that's a Rebel canner thing, but it's also a save money thing, and I've seen lots of Amish people do it as well. So anyways, guys, let me know if you guys have any questions. I hope this was a good, like, in-depth, full kind of view of canning your groceries. I really needed to save these butternut squash, keep them nice and fresh, and I've done that, and I'm very proud of myself for sharing it with you guys, because I'm not gonna lie, it's not like my most confident thing to do, but this channel is learning in front of you, and so I'm happy to do that. I hope this video will help somebody else be a little bit more confident. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Comment below. I thank you. I love you. I'll see you in the next video. Peace. So next up on the canning list is butternut squash. We always like to share the wins in the garden and in our homesteading journeys, and I thought I would share this with you. This is a very real moment, okay? So these are the butternut squash that I have left from last season. I actually have butternut squash forming on my plant this year, which means I need to make space. So I go into my little bitty pantry to check out what it looks like. I'm gonna wanna can these so that they can last longer. They can go ahead and stay fresh, and I can make space in my pantry. And I look in this box and I'm like, ugh. Oh, yeah. I know it's a shame, but it's gonna go in the compost, and it's gross, and this just solidified
that butternut squash is next on my list of things to can. Thank you for coming to my checking your homesteadiness. I'll see you guys soon.